All right, this is your literary test performance challenge for Maymester week number 2. This is kind of a little parody, I guess. It's kind of lighthearted, and I didn't note on your papers that I gave you that there were several phrases that were put in quotation marks. So we'll go through those and I'll show you where they actually were. Well, comma, it finally happened to me, period. Some of my friends have already gone through this, comma, but up to this point in time, comma, I had not, period. But then it happened, period. I am now out of work, period. If I am very honest with you, comma, that's an if clause, I will have to tell you that I was fired, paragraph. There are so many politically correct things they try to say to you when they are throwing you out the door. They were saying things like I didn't, quote, fit the team, comma, end quote. And it was, comma, after all, comma, for, quote, my own good, comma, end quote. A real, quote, blessing in disguise, period, end quote. The truth of the matter was that my boss and I did not get along at all. I was never very happy about the work that he had me doing. It became clear to all around me that my heart really was not in that job at all. So now it is time to find another job, period. There are many things that bother me about this fact, period. I do not have a degree from one of those, quote, better, end quote, colleges, period. I do not know anyone who is in top management at a large company, period. I do not have any friends or family who owe me a favor, period. I do not have a rich uncle who would hire me just because I am cute. Paragraph. I have been encouraged to seek help from people who find other people jobs who do this for a living. It's a little strange construction there, but it's okay to do it just like that. I am just a little bit nervous about handing over my professional future to anyone else. Most of my friends are standing behind me and pushing me forward because they know that I really do know how to work. My problem comes from the fact that I really do not know where to start. I don't see anyone on the street corner handing out jobs. It is even more fearful to me because I know our economy in this state is not in good shape, and the word state would not be capitalized there. Almost daily I hear of someone I know who was called in to receive the bad news. Be careful about that into. It's not one word there. It's not the preposition. It was called in to receive. So you have that difference right there. It's not one word. There are a few things worse than looking for a job. One I could name is waiting in line to renew a driver's license. I just did that the other day, and my question is, do those people ever work? That's just a little sideline. You can kind of laugh at that. One thing that really scares me is putting together a new resume. Now, there is that little mark for resume. I didn't include it there. If your software did, that's good. If you didn't, it's okay. I have to be very careful what I put down on paper. I don't want to say too little or too much. I want my resume to get attention from the person who will read it. And really, comma, how do you present yourself to someone who reads all about you from a computer screen? Question mark. I really do like that personal touch, comma, and many times that does not happen with the first reading of a resume. Now again, if you have any questions or concerns about anything or any way you would have done any of this differently, that's what the discussion is all about. So my first job is to make that resume stand out from the hundreds of resumes that companies receive each week. Obviously, my resume must be special. I know that I must highlight all my fine points. The problem becomes, what are my fine points? Now, you might have had a tendency right there to want to quote that also. That is a little different the way that's worded there, and that would be okay if you did. And if they are so fine, why am I out of work in the first place? Do I want to sell myself the same way a tour guide sells a package deal to Israel? Finally, I decide against special and go in favor of simple. I state my name, address, and contact numbers. Then I beef up the experience section. Now again, beef up is another one of those phrases, and if you put that in quotation marks, that's okay too. Under no circumstances will I actually lie, although I have a strong temptation to tell them I graduated from Harvard. The next section is my special skills. Does anyone really care that I can bake a perfect cake, or that my tennis serve is so good it cannot be returned? I do type very fast, but I am not looking to be a secretary. And then there are my outside interests. Do they really care that I like to dance? Then we come to references. Should I list them on the resume or wait until someone, and I think on the 160 or one of those tests I've said somebody, actually asks me for them? I go with the latter, L-A-T-T-E-R. We had a discussion in class the other day about ladder, L-A-D-D-E-R, and latter. So I go with the latter because I am afraid there are some people who will not even remember me. I think is the next word. And even though, after you read this 14 times, you remember, and even though the man who just fired me generously offered to recommend me to anyone, I think I'll pass. I am merely out of a job, not out of my mind. One glance at the clothes that I have tells me that no one will hire me, excuse me, if I wear any of them to an interview. My current wardrobe is useless. Can I help it if I really like red cowboy boots? I hate little skirts. I don't want to own anything called, quote, separates, end quote. And what does the term, quote, business attire, end quote, really mean? Now, I think that one I would have a little trouble with if you did not put the quotes there, because anytime we're saying the term or the word, that usually needs to be set off with quotation marks. I know what I will do. I will borrow an outfit from a friend who already has a job and therefore no use for the suit she bought to go on interviews years ago. Part of my game plan is to search for jobs on the computer each day. I am becoming an expert at that. But even then, one has to be very careful. How bad would it be to send a resume to an unnamed company and find it was the company that just fired me? Well, my search will continue. I know that somewhere out there is the perfect job for me. I know what kind of person I am and the qualities I have. I know that I am a hard worker, and that's where we stopped for the 180. Okay. Moving on with the jury charge. This was actually a pretty standard jury charge. So, members of the jury, the evidence in this case has now been concluded, and the attorneys have made their closing statements. We now come to the time when you, the jury, that's in a positive, renaming you, so it's a collective group renaming the pronoun you, are to perform your final duty in this case. I want to take this time to first of all thank you for the way that you have done your duty in this case. You have been very patient during some of the delays that we had. You have paid very careful attention to the testimony in this case. I would also like to thank the respective counsel in this case, and counsel is not capitalized, for the way they presented their side of the case. I also want to thank you for the respect that you had for all of us who were involved in this trial. Now, before you retire to consider the facts and circumstances, and I hope you have your brief down for that, very commonly used in jury charges, a very good facts and circumstances, very good brief of this case. And before you reach your verdict in this case, it is my duty to instruct you as to the law which you are to apply to this case. Now, I think you needed, I tried to emphasize this, and hopefully you paid attention to the little words, but right there I said the facts and circumstances of this case before you reach your verdict in this case, and it is my duty to instruct you as to the law which you are to apply to this case. So I said 3 different things there. I hope you picked up on that. The defendant, John King, stands before you on an indictment returned by our grand jury. Now that was capitalized in this one. I know there's some discussion about whether we capitalize grand jury or not. We probably won't count it wrong because I don't think I put grand jury on your sheet to be capitalized. Charging him with murder in count 1, but count 1 would be capitalized, semicolon, and possession of a gun without having a permit in count 2. That's as deep as we got into the counts this time. We didn't have it all coming at you like it did last week. This indictment is not evidence at all of the guilt or innocence of the defendant. And again, I hope you have your brief for guilt or innocence. This indictment is just a formal charge setting forth, S-E-T-T-I-N-G, setting forth a step in the process to bring this case before a court and jury such as this for a final verdict as to whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty. The jury and the judge have separate and distinct functions. You, jurors, are the sole judges of the facts. It is your duty to resolve all questions of fact from the evidence and the exhibits which have been submitted during this trial. Usually the word is admitted, but this one had submitted. In arriving at your decision as to the facts, you will have to weigh all the evidence and determine the truthfulness of each witness brought before you. Whenever there is a conflict in the evidence, you, and you alone, must find where the truth lies. It is my duty to determine all questions of law that arise during the trial, and to instruct the jury as to the law which is to be applied to this case. You must accept the law as it is stated by me, and you must apply that law to the facts of the case as you find them to be. That's a little bit of a bad reference right there. It really should be, you apply the law to the facts of the case as you find it to be, the law, but that was the way they said it in this one. I am allowed to comment on the testimony, but you should understand that any comments I make on the testimony are not binding upon you. This is because it is your sole function as the jury to decide the facts. Please understand, that I cannot and do not tell you what the evidence is or is not. All I can do is state to you the way that I remember the evidence. You must not rely on my comments about the evidence, because it is your function to determine your own opinion about what you have seen and heard here in this courtroom. The same thing is true with respect to any comments that either counsel may have said during their opening and closing statements, and I think in the 140 I said arguments. Their comments on the facts of the case simply reflect only their memory of the evidence. If their comments do not agree with your memory, you are under a duty to reject them and to rely on your own memory. Also, comma, what either counsel may believe as to the guilt or innocence, there's your brief again, of the defendant is not binding upon you. It is for you alone to determine the facts from all the evidence presented at this trial. From time to time, I think that's a brief also, comma, both the state, and that will be capitalized there, and the defense counsel have made motions and objections. It is not only their right to do so, comma, but it is also their sworn duty to do so, period. You are, comma, however, comma, bound by my rulings, comma, and any evidence excluded by me or kept out of the record by me must not be considered by you during your deliberations. My actions and rulings should not in any way be taken, and that's two words there, in any way, be taken by you as indicating how I may feel this case should be decided. These legal matters are simply my responsibility as the judge of the law. Also keep in mind that the fact that I may have asked questions to some of the witnesses in this case must not influence you in any way in your deliberations. The fact that I may have asked such questions does not mean that I have an opinion one way or the other as to the facts given by that witness. Anything that I said to counsel or by counsel to me or between counsel, now notice the commas there, anything that I said to counsel, comma, or by counsel to me, comma, or between counsel, comma, is not evidence and should not play a part in your decision. The defendant, John King, and that's set off, is presumed to be innocent until he is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The presumption of innocence stays with him through the trial of the case and even during your discussions, comma, unless and until you have found that the state has proved his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof is on the state and it never shifts. It remains on the state throughout the trial of the case. No burden, comma, with respect to proof is ever put on the defendant. He is never asked to prove his innocence. Unless the state has proven the crime charged and each of its elements beyond a reasonable doubt, comma, your duty is to find the defendant not guilty. In deciding if the state has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt, comma, your job is to weigh all of the testimony of each witness, semicolon. That is, comma, the extent to which the evidence that was given may be believed or not. When you weigh the evidence that has been given, comma, you must look at several things, colon. I don't remember how I said this. I may have just said one. I may have said number one. I don't remember how I did that. But anyway, that's the way they have it in this particular take. One, the interest or lack of interest of a witness in the outcome of the trial, semicolon. Two, the bias or prejudice of a witness, if any is shown, semicolon. Three, did the witness have knowledge about the facts that they related in court? Now, we stopped actually after that first one. So I'm not sure if you 200 guys put a semicolon right after that. You might have gone ahead and put a period because that was the last, that's where I stopped. But anyway, to just show you, there's several different ways that that you can have those lists. It could have been, you could have carried on out from that colon. You could have put the number one in parentheses, and you could have just continued it in paragraph form using that semicolon. Again, number two would be in parentheses and so forth. So you could have just continued to make it a paragraph rather than to enumerate it like it was done in this one. Either way would be correct. Okay? All right, now let's look at our Q&A for Maymester, week 2. Would you state your name for the record, comma, please, period. Answer, my name is Charles Hunt. Question, where do you live, comma, Mr. Hunt? Answer, I live here in San Antonio, comma, Texas, period. Question, how long have you lived in this city? Answer, for all of my life. Question, what do you do for a living, comma, sir? Answer, I work in one of the public schools here in the city. I am a football coach. Question, how long have you worked in this particular school as a coach? Answer, it has been for almost 5 years. Question, I believe we are here to discuss the problems you are having physically since your motorcycle accident, semicolon. Is that correct? Answer, yes, comma, sir, comma, that is why I am in court at this time. Question, do you feel that you have recovered from any problems you have had since that injury to your leg? Answer, it does feel better, comma, except that my leg is crooked, period. It is going to always be like that. Question, does that cause you any problems when you are walking or trying to coach on the field? Answer, there are some times when it does and other times it doesn't. Question, has it started hurting you again? Answer, it has started to hurt me since I had the car accident last month. Question, about how long had it been before this accident that you had not had any pain in your leg? Answer, after the leg healed from the motorcycle accident, it had not given me any problems at all. Question, I believe that you had that motorcycle accident back in January, semicolon. Is that correct? Answer, that is correct. Question, that was the time that you injured your right leg, semicolon. Is that correct? Answer, yes, comma, sir. Question, I assume for some period of time after that you had pain in your right leg, semicolon. Is that correct? Answer, it took a few months to heal, period. After that, comma, I did not have any type of problems at all. Question, let's turn our attention to that motorcycle accident, period. You had the accident on January 15, semicolon. Is that correct? Answer, yes, comma, that is correct. Question, could you tell us what happened in that accident? Answer, I had gone to Beaumont to visit some friends, period. I was riding down 4th Street, and all of a sudden, comma, I fell. Questions, what injuries did you have in that accident? Answer, I fractured my skull and my right leg. Question, where were you treated? Answer, at Baptist Hospital. Question, who was your doctor at that time? Answer, his name was Dr. Starr. Question, do you know the name of the other person who was involved in that accident? Answer, there was no one else involved but me. Question, would you describe for us how the accident happened? Answer, I was going down 4th Street to visit my friend. It was raining very hard at the time. The next thing I remember was 2 men who came by and picked me up in a truck. They put my bike in the back of the truck. And they took me to the hospital. Apparently, I had been unconscious for a period of time. Question, so you have no recall of how the accident occurred? Answer, no, comma, sir, comma, I don't. Question, what time of the day did the accident occur? Answer, it was actually at night, period. I am not sure of the exact time, period. I was supposed to meet my friend at his house around 8 p.m. Question, was this accident reported to the police? Answer, yes, comma, it was. Question, do you have any explanation as to how this accident occurred? Answer, no, comma, sir, comma, I don't. Question, had you been drinking or anything like that? Answer is no, period. Apparently, it was raining very hard, comma, and the bike just slipped out from under me. That is the only explanation I have. Question, so you injured your head and your leg in this accident? Answer, that is correct. Question, were you wearing a helmet at the time of the accident? Answer, no, comma, sir, comma, I was not. Question, have you recovered from that accident? Answer, for the most part, comma, yes, comma, sir, period. Question, do you ever have any headaches? Answer, some of the time I do. Question, how often do you have headaches? Answer, sometimes once or twice a week. Sometimes it comes and stays for a couple of days. Question, do you know who the two men were who helped you that night? Answer, I did not know these men at all. Question, so you did not get their names? Answer, I think their names are in the police report. They stayed at the hospital and talked to the police when they got there. Question, have you been involved in any other types of motor vehicle accidents? Answer, many years ago I had one other motorcycle accident. Question, can you tell us what happened in that accident? Answer, I was going home on the freeway during the rush hour. A guy passed by in a truck and threw some beer bottles out in front of me. I guess he didn't like people riding bikes on the freeway. I thought what he had thrown out of his window was a bag with trash in it, and I ran over it and lost control of the bike. I had a lot of scrapes on my shoulder and arms and had stitches put in my lip and underneath my jaw under here. Question, where were you treated for those injuries? Answer, at Baptist Hospital. Question, how long were you in the hospital? Answer, they did not keep me. I was treated and released. Question, have you ever received any traffic tickets? Answer, yes, comma, I have. Question, how many traffic tickets have you received? Answer, I don't know exactly, semicolon. Several, comma, I would guess. Question, give us a number within the last 5 years. Answer, maybe 2 in all. Question, what were they for? Answer, one was for no license tag, dash. It was expired. The other one was for not having my driver's license with me. Now, I think you don't have to put that dash there. You could have put a semicolon there because it could have been in place of a conjunction there if you wanted to. Question, you have never received a ticket for something like running a stop sign or anything like that, comma, have you? Answer, no, comma, sir. Question, have you ever been arrested? Answer is yes, period. I was arrested last year. Question, where were you arrested? Answer, here in San Antonio. Question, what was the reason for that arrest? Answer, at the time that I broke my leg, comma, I filed for disability benefits because I could not go to work. They accused me of getting benefits that I was not supposed to get, and they arrested me for that. Question, what type of disability had you filed for? Answer, it was state, capital state disability. Question, were you given a fine, comma, or were you put in jail? Answer, I had to appear before a judge, comma, and I was put on probation. Question, did you have any type of insurance for any of these accidents that you have had? Answer, I had no insurance, period. I really could not afford it at the time. Question, how did the police determine that you were getting disability payments that you should not have been getting? Answer, I think I was being followed without my knowing about it. Okay. Pretty standard on most of those. You see a pattern after a while where you start following the same things with the yeses and the nos and those types of things. So I think you're seeing how it falls into kind of a routine that you get used to after a while. So hopefully you're doing okay. Now it's just a matter of getting all those words and passing those tests. Okay, good luck.